Hey guys, welcome to second grade ELA. This is going to be our language lesson for today, or our grammar lesson. So the first thing we are talking about in language is sentences. And I know you guys know a lot of things about sentences already. So you guys tell me, what are some things that you know a sentence must have? Just think about those for a second. All right, have you thought of a few things that sentences must have? Okay, let's go over and see if I thought of the same things you did. Let's look at this one first. Let's see what it says. Oh, sentences must have an end mark. Yeah, and an end mark is like a period, a question mark, or an exclamation mark. Yeah, you guys know that. You've got to put an end mark, and that's that thing you put at the end of a sentence. That's why it's called an end mark, because it's a mark you put at the end. So yeah, it has to have one of these. All right, let's see what this one says and see if you thought about this one. I wonder what it says. Oh, they have to make sense. And that means they have a subject and a predicate, and we'll talk about subject and predicate later. But right now, let's just worry about the sentences must make sense. That means that, like, if I walked up to you and said it, it would make sense to you. You would understand what I was saying. For example, if I just walked up to you and said red ball, you would be confused because you'd be like, what about the red ball? That didn't make any sense. So yeah, a sentence must tell you who's doing it and what they're doing. That's the subject and predicate, and that makes sense. If I just say red ball, well, you don't know what's happening to the red ball or what somebody's doing with the red ball. You have to tell more. All right, and our last thing that sentences must have, do you know what it is? They got to have an end mark. They must make sense. What's that last thing? It's something to do with the beginning of the sentence. What do you have to do? Exactly, I knew you guys knew that. They have to have a capital at the beginning. Always you put a capital at the beginning of a sentence. And that's probably going to be the only capital letter you have in that whole sentence. Unless there's a name. You shouldn't put any other capitals, only at the beginning. Let's practice that a little bit more. Alright, remember how we talked about sentences must make sense? Well, I've got several different sentences here. And we're going to sort them. We're going to figure out where they would go. Because I have a column here that says correct sentence and a column here that says not a correct sentence. So we're going to drag these where they need to go. But you guys have to help me, okay? Alright, let's look at this first one. It says school starts today. So I'm going to drag it over here where we can see it. Well, we'll leave it right here. This one right here, school starts today. Is that a correct sentence or not a correct sentence? I want you to think about it for just a second. Okay, where am I going to put it? Good. I hope we're going to put it in the not a correct sentence. Think about why. Why is this not a correct sentence? Exactly. It doesn't have a capital. We said sentences have to have a capital at the beginning. It doesn't have that. We also said sentences have to have an end mark. There's no end mark. That's not a correct sentence. It does make sense. If I say school starts today, we totally understand that. But it's not correct because it needs a capital and it also needs an end mark. So good, that one goes there. All right, what about this one? The kids are smart. Kids are smart. Where are we going to put it? Correct? Not correct. Where do you think I should put it? Good. You're also right. This is not a correct sentence. Because why? Why isn't it a correct sentence? Exactly. It doesn't have one of those end marks we talked about at the end. Awesome. It does have the capital, which is great, and it makes sense. The kids are smart. Just like you guys, you're smart. But it didn't have an end mark. So we can't call it a correct sentence if it doesn't have all three of those things. Remember from the first. Has to have an end mark, has to make sense, and it has to have a capital at the beginning. If it doesn't, we can't put it in the correct. Alright, so what about this one? I have some crayons. Where would we stick that? I have some crayons. Yeah, I think you're right. That's a correct sentence. It's the first one we found that's correct. It has a capital, it has an end mark, and it makes sense. I have some crayons. Awesome, we found our first good sentence. Alright, let's look at this one. Hot dogs and chips. Would that be a sentence or not a sentence? Yes. If I just walked up to you and said hot dogs and chips, would that make any sense to you? No, you don't know if I'm asking you if you want some hot dogs and chips, or if I'm asking if you want to make some hot dogs and chips, or I'm asking you if you've seen any hot dogs and chips. We don't know if all I say to you is hot dogs and chips. You don't know what I'm meaning. So this, even though it has the capital and it has an end mark, it doesn't make sense. Remember we talked about it had to have all three to be a good sentence. And this one, it has two of them. It has the capital, it has the end mark. Doesn't make sense. Good. Alright, let's look at this last one in the middle here. The teacher is nice. That's true, I think. Yeah, I think the teacher's nice. Where would it go? The teacher is nice. Yes, you're right. That's also a correct sentence because it has a capital, it has an end mark, and it also makes sense. The teacher is nice. Very good. All right, how about this one? We are in second grade. Where would we put this one? We are in second grade. Yeah, that one's also a correct sentence. It makes perfect sense. It has a capital and it has the end mark. So good, we are in second grade. Awesome. All right, how about rode the bus? If I just walked up to you and said, rode the bus. Are you sure that's where it would go? Good. You're right. It has a capital, it has an end mark, but it doesn't make any sense. It's just like hot dogs and chips. If I walked up to you and said, rode the bus, you'd be like, who rode the bus? You've got to tell more. It doesn't make any sense. So good. That is not a correct sentence. Didn't make any sense. All right, I'm going to let you think about these two for just a few minutes. We just have two left. The purple one says, my best friend, and the blue one says, I lost my tablet. Think about where we would put those two. Think about where we would put them. Okay, sorry guys, that was a little bit of a long wait. I had to go turn the air conditioner on real quick. I was about to burn up in here. Okay, so where do you think these two go? Yes, they are both not correct. You guys are right. My best friend, if I just said that to you, it's kind of like hot dogs and chips and rode the bus. It doesn't make any sense if I just said my best friend. You'd be like, well, what about them? My best friend is Sally. My best friend is coming to my house today. We don't know because you didn't tell the rest of it. So you've got to make sure that it makes sense, and that one didn't, even though they tried to trick you with a capital and an end mark. It wasn't just a good sentence. And then you're right again. I lost my tablet is also not a correct sentence. What's wrong with that one? It sounds good. I lost my tablet. That makes sense. It has an end mark. You're right. There's no capital at the beginning. If it would have had a capital letter, we would have been able to say, yeah, that's a good sentence. But since they forgot the capital, it makes the whole sentence not correct. Very good. So let's go over one more time those 3 things a good sentence needs. A good sentence must have an end mark at the end. Most of the time it's going to be a period, but occasionally or sometimes there will be a question mark or an exclamation mark. We'll talk about all of those. Sentences must have a capital letter at the very beginning, and sentences must make sense. They must tell you all about what you're saying. So very good. All right, that is the end of our little lesson about sentences today. I have a really quick assignment you're going to do. It's in your assignments in ELA. It will say sentence or not a sentence, and all you have to do is pick the one that is correct and circle it, I think is all it asks you to do. All the directions are there. So I'll let you go ahead and do that, and you can get it turned into me, and then we'll come back and we'll do some phonics, okay? All right, good luck, guys.